Hi, you're listening to Everyday Superpower, a place where you can learn about body language and how to read the minds of others purely through observing them in real time. We keep it nice and simple here. By the end of this lesson, as well as at the end of every single lesson on this channel, you're going to be able to learn real important information that will be applicable from the moment you absorb what I have to tell you, okay? So feel free to zone on in and click like, click subscribe, potentially leave a comment if you have anything you need to comment. And we're going to talk today about a little bit of a compare and contrast, yeah, with individuals who have their legs closed while standing versus people who have their legs apart while standing, all right? So in the image ahead of you, what you can see is the legs of military personnel. Now, this legs closed stance is like someone at attention. It's a formal position, and as far as the attitude it displays, it's more so of a neutral attitude, okay? So it's not a defensive crossing of the legs, concealing the genitals. Neither is it a bold, aggressive, positive, I have the right to take up space, spreading of the legs, exposing the genitals, okay? So it's middle ground. It's used to project a subordinate and submissive status to those whom we are engaging with, who maybe hold an authoritarian figure or position. So let's say we're speaking to the boss. Let's say that these military individuals are speaking to their higher up, their officials, and a child whom is speaking to their teacher. They may engage in conversation in this stance to show attention. Women will use this stance more so than men. This being, women don't use as many expansive postures as men do, purely on a biological, territorial and aggressive basis. They tend to reel it in a little more so than the men, alongside it being a genital display when the legs are open. Now, women don't tend to expose the genitals as much. When we talk about man spreading and the individual sitting on the bus with their legs wide open, taking up space and exposing the genitals, women don't tend to do so as much. More than likely, purely as a woman is to be brought up wearing particular garments which men don't, such as a skirt, a dress and so forth, which wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to be spreading the legs with. So muscle memory to some extent plays a part in why a woman wouldn't do so. All right? Not only that, but women tend to have a little bit of a less of an emphasis on the territory grab and the grabbing of resources that a man does. And when we speak of resources, not necessarily material possessions, but being, involved with the space around them. Men, the more powerful and dominant they're feeling, and the more dominant they actually are, will take up more space because they feel subconsciously that they have a right to do so. And that links in with the legs closed posture. Your boss may have his feet up on the table, taking up all the space. Your boss might be have his legs wide apart, which we're going to talk about next, exposing himself to you, confident, bold, somewhat aggressive, and you're going to stand with your legs closed to not conflict in a masculine, debate of genital exposure or territorial grab. Instead, you're going to submit by taking up less space and being attentive. Now, let's talk about the legs apart. So, the yin and the yang, this is predominantly a male gesture, okay? As it's a standing crotch display. Both feet are firm on the ground. It's harder to budge an individual whom has got their legs spread rather so than someone who is standing on a tightrope of closed leg. It's more dominant. So let's talk about why it's dominant. You're exposing the genitals, 1. You're taking up more space, number 2. You're firmer, sturdier, number 3. Okay? It's open body language, not closed body language, number 4. If you have any additions, leave them in the comments. There's plenty I haven't mentioned. Makes a clear statement that the individual has no intention of leaving, alright? Which, to an extent, so does the closed leg. It's the awkward middle ground that shows that the individual isn't saying they're not going to run, like the crossed leg stance, but they're not in heavy preparation to run. So that's the neutrality of the legs closed. Getting back to the legs apart, it's a dominant signal because, of course, it exposes the genitals. When you take this position and have the individual seated, it's more evident. And this is what people in the modern world are complaining about, men sitting down with their legs open. Why did they do this? How arrogant. It may be deemed arrogant, but the subconscious mind isn't trying to express such a nuisance to onlookers and the people in the space. It's how the person actually feels on a biological, primitive basis. They feel that they have a right to do so. And that's the talk for today. So a little bit of a compare and contrast between an individual standing with the legs closed together and an individual standing with the legs apart, taking up more space. Hopefully it's been food for thought. Click like, click subscribe, leave a comment. Till next time.